If you've heard people talking about Claude AI at work and you're not quite sure what it is, what it does, or where you'd even begin, this video is for you. Not for people who've already tried it, not for people who know what a prompt is or feel comfortable around AI tools already. This one is for the person who's curious but hasn't started yet, or who tried it once, found it a bit confusing, and didn't go back. We're going to go slowly and clearly. No jargon, no assumed knowledge, no skipping over the bits that feel obvious, because nothing should feel obvious at this stage, and that's completely fine. By the end of this video, you'll have created your account, you'll understand what Claude AI actually is and how it works, you'll have had your first real interaction with it, and you'll know exactly what to do next. Let's start at the very beginning. Before we talk about Claude AI specifically, let's talk about what AI actually means, because the word gets thrown around so much that it's stopped meaning anything useful. Artificial intelligence, in the context we're talking about, is software that can understand written language and respond to it in a way that's thoughtful, specific, and useful. That's the plain English version. No science fiction, no robots, no sentient computers. Just software that's very good at reading what you write and writing something back. To understand why that's useful, it helps to compare it to something you already use every day, a search engine. When you type something into Google, Google doesn't actually understand your question. It takes the words you typed and finds web pages that contain those same words. It's matching keywords to results. That's all it's doing. Claude AI is fundamentally different. When you write something to Claude AI, it actually reads and understands what you've written. It considers the context, it thinks about what you're trying to do, and it produces a response that's specific to what you actually said, not just a list of links to pages that contain similar words. Here's a simple example to make that concrete. If you type, "How do I write a difficult email to a client?" into Google, you'll get a list of articles about writing difficult emails. You'll have to read through them and figure out what applies to your situation. If you type the same thing into Claude AI, it'll ask you what the situation is. Or better, if you tell it what the situation is up front, it'll write the actual email for you. Not advice about how to write it, the email itself, specific to your client, your situation, your tone. That difference between a tool that finds information and a tool that actually produces work is what makes Claude AI genuinely useful for professional life in a way that search engines never quite were. Claude AI is made by a company called Anthropic. It was designed specifically to be safe, helpful, and good at the kind of nuanced, contextual work that comes up in professional settings. You've probably also heard of ChatGPT. That's a similar tool made by a different company, OpenAI. Claude AI and ChatGPT do similar things, the way that Microsoft Word and Google Docs do similar things. Both will help you write, summarize, plan, and think. This channel focuses on Claude AI because it performs particularly well for professional writing tasks, and because it has a dedicated workspace called Cowork that makes it especially useful for ongoing work. We'll cover Cowork in detail later in this series. Here's what Claude AI can help you with in a professional context. Writing emails, everything from routine updates to difficult conversations. Drafting documents, reports, proposals, summaries, process documents. Summarizing long pieces of text. Paste in a 20-page report and ask for the key points. Preparing for meetings, agenda, key talking points, likely questions you'll face. Thinking through problems, describing a situation and working through the options. And dozens of other everyday professional tasks that currently take more time than they should. The common thread across all of those things is that they involve writing, thinking, and communicating. And those are exactly the areas where Claude AI is strongest. Now, just as important, let's be clear about what Claude AI isn't, because there's a lot of noise around AI, and some of it creates unrealistic expectations in both directions. Claude AI is not a replacement for your professional judgment. It produces drafts, summaries, plans, and ideas. You review them. You decide what's right. You make the calls. Think of it as an exceptionally capable assistant, one that can do a lot of things very quickly. But the judgment about whether something is correct, appropriate, and ready to use is always yours. Claude AI is not always right. It can make mistakes. It can occasionally present incorrect information with the same confident tone it uses when it's correct. This isn't common for straightforward writing tasks, but it happens, which is why the rule is always read what it produces before you use it. Never copy and paste without checking. Claude AI doesn't know anything about you or your organization unless you tell it. Every time you start a new conversation, it starts from zero. It doesn't know your name, your company, your clients, your tone, or your situation unless you include that information in the conversation. This is actually one of the most important things to understand, and it's the main reason why how you talk to Claude AI matters so much. We're going to spend a lot of time on this. And finally, Claude AI can't browse the internet in real time. It has a knowledge cutoff date, which means it doesn't know what happened in the news this morning or what the current price of anything is. For time-sensitive, factual information, you still need a search engine. But for the writing, thinking, and communication work that takes up most of your professional day, Claude AI is where the value is. Part 1. Getting set up. Your account, the interface, and your very first interaction. To use Claude AI, you need an account. The website is Claude.ai. That's Claude.ai, not .com. Open it in any browser on your computer, your tablet, or your phone. You'll see a sign-up option when you arrive. You can create an account using your Google account, your work email address, or a personal email address. Any of those works. It takes about a minute and doesn't require a credit card. When it comes to which plan to choose, there's a free plan and there are paid plans. For everything in this video and for the rest of the beginner series, the free plan is completely sufficient. You don't need to pay anything to get started. As you use Claude AI more heavily over time and want access to additional features, you might choose to upgrade, but that's a decision for much later. For now, free is fine. Once you've created your account and logged in, you'll arrive at the main Claude AI interface. Let's look at what you're looking at. The Claude AI interface is deliberately simple. There are really only 3 things you need to understand to get started. The first is the text bar at the bottom of the screen. This is where you write. You click on it, type whatever you want to say or ask, and then either press the Enter key or click the Send button. That's all it takes to start a conversation with Claude AI. The second is the main conversation area in the middle of the screen. This is where the back and forth appears. Your messages show on one side, Claude AI's responses on the other. If you've ever used a messaging app, WhatsApp, iMessage, Teams, it works exactly the same way. You say something, it responds, you respond to that, and so on. The third is the sidebar on the left side of the screen. This is where all your conversation history is stored. Every conversation you've ever had with Claude AI is saved here automatically, and you can go back and access any of them at any time. You can also start a new conversation by clicking the New Chat button at the top of the sidebar. That's genuinely all there is to the interface. There's no complexity hidden somewhere that you haven't found yet. The tool is simple by design, because the power isn't in the interface, it's in the conversation. And that's what we're here to learn. Before we go any further into technique, let's just try it. No framework, no special language. Just type something and see what happens. Think of a task that's sitting on your to-do list right now. Something you need to write or summarize or prepare for. It doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, simpler is better for this first go. An email you've been putting off, some meeting notes you need to tidy up, a summary of a document you've been meaning to read. Type it into Claude AI in plain English, the same way you'd describe it to a colleague if they walked past your desk and you asked them to give you a hand. Don't overthink the wording. Just type. Go ahead and pause the video now. Open Claude AI if you haven't already, and try it. See what comes back. Welcome back. You've just had your first interaction with Claude AI. What you got back might have been pretty good, or it might have felt a bit generic or not quite right for your specific situation. Both of those outcomes are completely normal, and either way, you've done the important thing. You've tried it. Everything from here builds on that first attempt. If what you got back felt a bit generic, like it could have been written for anyone about anything, that's not Claude AI failing. It's Claude AI doing exactly what it could with what you gave it. Here's the thing. Claude AI works entirely from what's in the conversation. It doesn't know anything about you, your organization, your client, or your situation, unless you've told it. When you give it a short, general description of a task, it fills in all the gaps it doesn't have information for, and it fills them in with generic assumptions, because that's the safest thing to do when it doesn't know anything specific. Generic assumptions produce generic outputs. That's not a flaw in the tool, it's a reflection of the information it had to work with. The single most important thing to understand about Claude AI is this. The output you get is almost entirely determined by the context you provide. Give Claude AI a thin description, and you get a thin output. Give it a rich, specific description of your actual situation, and you get something genuinely usable. This is the skill this channel teaches, how to give Claude AI the right context. It's not complicated, it gets faster with practice, and the difference in output quality is immediate and significant. But first, let's make sure we understand how Claude AI actually works so that the technique makes sense. Part 2. How Claude AI actually works. The conversation model, what it's good at, what it isn't, and why it matters. The most helpful way to think about Claude AI is as a conversation, not a search engine, not a form to fill in, not a machine you give commands to. When you have a conversation with a knowledgeable colleague, you don't just fire off a single question and expect a perfect answer first time. You describe the situation. You explain what you need and why. They respond with something. You tell them what's not quite right. They adjust. You refine it further. Together, you get to something useful. That's exactly how Claude AI is designed to work. It's built for back and forth. The first thing it produces isn't necessarily the finished product. It's the starting point, a very capable first draft that you then shape through conversation. You can tell it, that's too formal, make it warmer. Or, the third paragraph is too long, cut it in half. Or, you've missed the key point. The deadline moved because of a supplier issue, not because of anything we did. And it will adjust, specifically, without you having to start over from scratch, because it holds the entire conversation in its memory. It knows what you originally asked for, what it produced, and what you want to change. This is the thing that surprises most people when they first use Claude AI properly. They expect a one-shot tool. Type, get answer, done. But the real value is in the back and forth. The people who get the most from Claude AI are the ones who treat it like a conversation rather than a transaction. That shift in how you use it changes everything. Let's go through the specific areas where Claude AI delivers the most value for professional work. These are the tasks where people save the most time and get the strongest results. Writing and drafting. This is the biggest one. Emails, from quick updates to difficult conversations. Reports, proposals, process documents, meeting summaries, announcements. Give Claude AI the context, and it produces a solid first draft. You review, adjust, and finalize. What might take you an hour takes it 30 seconds, and what you spend the remaining time on is refining, rather than producing from scratch. Summarizing. If you've ever had a 50-page report land in your inbox that you need to understand by the afternoon, Claude AI is transformative for this. Paste the text in and ask it to give you the key points, the main recommendations, or the 3 most important things to know. It reads and distills in seconds. Structuring and planning. Describe a project or a problem in a few sentences and ask Claude AI to help you structure an approach. It's particularly good at taking vague, half-formed ideas and turning them into something organized and clear. Thinking through problems. Describe a situation you're dealing with, a difficult relationship with a client, a decision you're uncertain about, a conflict within a team, and ask Claude AI to help you think through the options. It won't make the decision for you, but it can help you see angles you might have missed. Meeting preparation. Tell Claude AI what the meeting is about, who's going to be in the room, what you're trying to achieve, and what you're worried might come up. It'll give you a clear agenda, the key points to land, and the questions you should prepare answers for. Just as important as knowing where Claude AI excels, knowing where it has real limitations so you use it appropriately. Real-time information. Claude AI's training has a cutoff date. It doesn't know what happened in the news this morning, what the current exchange rate is, or what your company announced last week. For anything time-sensitive and factual, use a search engine. For the writing, thinking, and communication work that follows from that information, use Claude AI. Highly specialized professional advice. Claude AI can give you a useful starting point on legal, financial, medical, or compliance topics, but it's not a substitute for professional advice in those areas. Treat it as a very well-read generalist who can help you ask better questions and understand the landscape, not as a qualified specialist. Anything in your systems that you haven't shown it yet. Claude AI can't see your emails, your calendar, your files, or any of your company's internal systems. It works entirely from what's in the conversation. If you need it to help you with something that involves information from those systems, you need to paste the relevant content into the conversation yourself. And work you don't check. Claude AI is not infallible. It can produce something that sounds entirely plausible and confident, but is factually wrong. This isn't common for general professional writing tasks, but it does happen. The rule is simple. Always read what it produces before you use it. This is especially important for anything that contains specific facts, numbers, or references. We've touched on this already, but it's worth saying as clearly as possible, because it's the idea that everything else builds on. Claude AI is only as good as what you give it. If you type, "Write me an email about the project," Claude AI doesn't know which project. It doesn't know who you are. It doesn't know who the email is going to. It doesn't know what happened with the project, what tone is appropriate, or what you want the reader to do after reading it. So it makes assumptions. And those assumptions are as generic as possible because it doesn't know anything specific. Now compare that to, I'm a project manager at a logistics company. I need to email our client, a large retail chain, to tell them that a software integration we promised by the end of this month will now be delayed by 3 weeks because our development team found a significant technical issue. I want to be honest about the delay without being alarming, acknowledge the inconvenience, and reassure them that we're on top of it. The relationship is good, and I don't want to damage that. Direct and professional tone. Around 200 words. Same task, completely different output. The second prompt produces something you could actually send, or get very close to sending with light editing. The first produces something you'd need to rewrite almost entirely. The difference between those two isn't magic or expertise. It's just information. You're telling Claude AI the situation, the audience, the objective, and the tone. That's it. And the quality of what comes back changes completely. Everything this channel teaches is about how to do this well, efficiently, consistently, and for all the different kinds of professional tasks you face. But the core idea is always the same. Context in, quality out. Before we move to the practical part, I want to address something directly because it comes up a lot, especially for people who are new to AI tools. Using Claude AI at work doesn't mean you're not doing your job. It doesn't mean you're cutting corners or being dishonest. It means you're using a tool to do your job better and faster. Think about how we already use tools in professional life. A lawyer who uses document templates to start a contract isn't providing less skilled advice than one who types from scratch. An accountant who uses spreadsheet software isn't less capable than one who calculates by hand. A marketer who uses design software to produce professional materials isn't less creative than one who works without it. Tools make skilled people more productive. That's the point of tools. Claude AI is a tool, a very powerful and flexible one, but the professional judgment, what to ask for, how to evaluate what comes back, whether it's accurate and appropriate, how to adapt it to your specific situation, when to use it and when not to, all of that is yours. The skill is in using it well. And that's exactly what this series is designed to teach. Also worth knowing, check your organization's AI policy if you're unsure. Some organizations have specific guidelines about what data can be shared with AI tools. If you're uncertain, Start with tasks that don't involve sensitive client or company data until you've had a chance to check. Part 3. Your first real task. We're going to walk through the 3-step loop that makes Claude AI actually useful, and I want you to do this alongside the video with something from your actual working day, not a practice scenario. The reason I want you to use real work rather than a hypothetical scenario is simple. Watching someone demonstrate a technique is very different from doing it yourself on something that matters. When you use Claude AI on a task that's actually in your to-do list, one where you can judge the output against what you actually need, the learning sticks differently. You have real criteria to evaluate it against. You know what good looks like for that specific task. You'll notice immediately when something is off, and you'll understand why. So before we go further, identify one task from your current working day, something you'd normally spend 20 to 40 minutes on. An email to a client or colleague, a summary of a meeting or document, a short report or briefing, a plan for something coming up. Got one? Good. We're going to do it in 3 steps. Step 1. Describe. Open Claude AI and type a description of what you need in plain English, the way you'd explain it to a capable colleague who's new to your organization, someone smart who wants to help but doesn't know your specific situation yet. Include these things: who you are and what your role is, who the output is for, the specific audience, what the situation is, what actually happened or what's going on, what you need the output to accomplish, what should the reader think, feel, or do after reading it, what tone it should have, and roughly how long it should be. You don't need to use a checklist or a special format. Just write it naturally. Something like, I'm a senior account manager at a marketing agency. I need to write an email to our client, a mid-sized food manufacturing company, to tell them that the campaign we're running for them has had a strong first month. Open rates were up 30% on what we projected. Click-through rates were above industry average, and we're on track to hit their target by the end of the quarter. I want the email to feel warm and celebratory. This is good news, and I want them to feel good about having chosen us. Around 150 words. That's a description, not a template, not a formula, just the actual situation, explained clearly. Write yours now and send it to Claude AI. Pause here if you need to. Step 2. Read. Don't skim what Claude AI produced. Actually read it, from the beginning all the way through. As you read, ask yourself, does this do what I needed it to do? Does it sound like it's written for the right audience? Is the tone appropriate? Is the length right? Is anything missing? Is anything wrong? Most of the time, the first output from Claude AI will be pretty good, definitely better than a blank page, but it won't be perfect. That's completely expected, and it's not a problem. The point of this step is not to decide whether to accept it or reject it. The point is to identify the one thing that's most off. Just one thing. Not a list of 15 things you'd like changed. The single most important thing that's not right. Maybe the tone is slightly too formal. Maybe the opening paragraph is weak. Maybe it's left out the most important point. Maybe it's a bit too long. Whatever that one thing is, note it. That's what you'll give Claude AI in Step 3. Step 3. Direct. Still in the same conversation, do not start a new one. Type your direction to Claude AI. Tell it the one thing you want changed. Be specific, not make it better. That's too vague. Claude AI doesn't know what better means without more information. Instead, the opening paragraph is too formal and a bit stiff. Rewrite it to be warmer and more conversational. We have a good relationship with this client, and I want it to feel like that. Or, you've missed the most important detail. The reason the open rates were high was specifically because we A/B tested 3 different subject lines, which is something we proposed and they initially pushed back on. Include a brief mention of that. It makes us look good. Or simply, this is a bit long. Can you cut it to about 100 words without losing the key points? Claude AI will revise. It knows what you originally asked for. It knows what it produced, and it knows what you want to change. It holds all of that in the conversation. You don't have to re-explain anything from scratch. You just tell it what to fix. Read the revised version. If it's right, you're done. If there's still something off, make one more direction. Most tasks take 2 or 3 rounds of this. Each round takes about 30 seconds. The total time to a polished, usable output is still a small fraction of what it would have taken you to produce it entirely on your own. If you just did that, described a real task, got an output, read it, and directed at least one change, you've used Claude AI the right way for the first time. Describe, read, direct. That 3-step loop is the foundation of everything else this channel teaches. Every technique, every framework, every workflow we cover in this series is a refinement of that same loop, a way to make the description richer, the reading sharper, or the direction more precise. The people who find Claude AI underwhelming are almost always stuck at step 1. They type something brief, get something generic, and conclude that the tool isn't that useful. The people who get real value complete the loop, and they keep doing it until the output is genuinely usable. You've just completed the loop. That's the foundation. Everything from here makes it faster, more consistent, and more powerful. Part 4. What to do next. This video is the first in the Claude for Work Start Here series. Here's what's coming and what each video covers. This video, Absolute Beginners. What Claude AI is, how the interface works, and your first experience of the describe, read, direct loop. You've just done this. Next, Beginners. This goes much deeper on how to describe tasks to Claude AI so it produces something useful every time. It introduces a simple framework, 6 elements, that you can apply to any task. The brief framework is the single most important skill in the whole channel, and it gets a full video. After that, your first prompt brief. Here we introduce the idea of a prompt brief, a concept this channel coined to describe the shift from typing instructions at Claude AI to briefing it the way you'd brief a capable colleague or consultant. This video bridges the language people already know with a more professional and effective approach. Then, Co-work for Beginners. This introduces Claude AI's dedicated workspace, which makes it dramatically more useful for ongoing professional work. Instead of starting from scratch every time, you build a project where Claude AI holds all the relevant context permanently. This is where things start to get genuinely powerful. Work through them in order. Each one builds on the last. Take your time with each video. Try what's taught before moving on. By the end of the series, you'll be using Claude AI in a way that most people who've been using it for months haven't figured out. 2 things in the description worth grabbing before you go further. The brief, 1 page. It's free. A 1-page printable reference card with the framework for describing tasks to Claude AI. If you're about to try more tasks on your own, print it and keep it next to you. It shows you exactly what to include when you describe a task, so you're not guessing. Your first week with Claude AI at work, $20. A 5-day PDF guide that takes you from your very first prompt all the way to a complete professional workflow. If you want a structured, day-by-day path through everything this series covers, that's it, with templates, examples, and a review on day 5. Both links in the description, via Claude for Lawyers on Gumroad, while we set up the Claude for Work store. Same creator. That's the Absolute Beginners video. You know what Claude AI is and isn't. You've got your account. You understand how the conversation model works. You've completed the describe, read, direct loop on real work, and you know where this series goes from here. One thing to do before you move on to the next video. Use Claude AI on one more task today, something from your actual working day. Run the loop again. The second time always feels faster and more natural than the first. The next video is Claude for Work, Beginners. See you there.